Welcome to the day 5 of 7-day Figma design course, and today we are covering variables in Figma. And to understand this topic or this feature of Figma, you should know the basics of Figma obviously, and you should know about how styles and library works in Figma, like how color palettes are generated and how they are organized in Figma. And you should also know the theory part of colors, like how we use colors in UI design, like the basic things of colors, because I'm not going to explain all those things in this video. And I have already covered all these things in these 3 videos. Link is in the description. So go watch these videos first. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand anything. Okay. And there is no point of watching this video. Now let's look at the structure of the video. First of all, we will see the variables basic. Like this is the practical part. We will see the basic properties of variables. Like what are variables, how to create them, how to group them. Okay. Then we will learn about design tokens. Like what are design tokens, why we should use them. Okay. And then we will see this practical implementation, like how to set out design tokens in Figma with the help of variables. Okay. So let's start with the basics of variables. Let me go to a new file like variables basics. If you just look at this option like local variables, if you just click here, then here we have the variables panel. If you just click on this create variable, then here we have 4 options. And in this video, I will focus more on the color part because other parts are not that much like hard to understand. If you understand color, how colors work, you can use other parts very easily. Okay, that's not a big deal. So if you just click on the color part, then it will show you 2 things, like the name and the value. This is the name of the color. Like if I type blue here, like blue 00, and I'm assuming that you know how we name colors in UI design. I'm not going to tell you the basics like how we name our colors in UI design. I have covered that thing in the second video of the free design course and in the first video of my free UI UX design course. Okay, you just hit enter, then it will save the name, and here you can change the value. Like this is the color. If you just go here, this is very simple thing. Okay, you can see that this is similar to what we have in styles. Like if you just look at the local style, in styles we have our color palette something like this. Like this is the blue, then we have blue 50, blue 100, blue 200, 300. Okay, so if I tell you in very simple language, variables are kind of, not exactly, kind of a advanced version of local styles we have. Okay, with some extra features, like you can switch between 2 themes in this thing. Like if I show you, like say if I go inside this and if I select it, I can switch between dark theme and light theme very easily if I have set it up properly. Like if I choose between light theme and then I can choose between dark theme. Okay, so it will be very easy and it will save you hours because changing the theme manually takes a lot of time, but with variables you can do that thing in just 1 click. Okay, now let's generate our whole color palette because we will not go and generate individual color palettes. Well, let me delete this. Okay, I will use a plugin for this thing. I will go here and search for this plugin, Tailwind CSS color generator. You can use any other color palette generator. There are so many plugins which can do the same thing. I'm just using this plugin. You can use your favorite plugin if you want. Okay, here you have to type the hex code of your primary color or the color that is present in your logo, and it will generate the color palette according to that. I'm choosing a random color for right now. For this video, you have to choose the specific color for your requirements. Okay, like if I choose like blue and if I type the name here, let's say just blue. Okay, and you just click on this option, generate a color guide, then it will generate a color guide. Make sure that you check it. It will be easy for you to manage. Then simply click on create variables. Okay, you can also create styles, but we don't use styles anymore, so it's an outdated feature, and Figma might remove styles in near future once they have fully launched Figma variables. Okay, so here we have our color style guides generated. If I just go in the local variables, you can see that there is nothing, it's empty because there are collections. Like if I just go here we have the collection 1, then we have colors. Like if I just click on colors, then I will be able to see my colors, and I can also rename it. Like if I just click here and I rename it, I can rename it, but I will not recommend you to rename it right now because otherwise it will generate another collection. Okay, like if I go here and if I choose red color, let's say first generate, let's put the gray colors. Okay, like here's a gray color, and I'm generating these colors randomly. You have to generate very precisely according to your requirement. Okay, you can even pick the individual color if you want. Okay, I'm just generating these colors randomly. Okay, so we have our gray color ready, and I forgot to change the name. I will change the color name later. Okay, I will choose the red color, create variables, the green color. Okay, now we will rename our colors. You can simply double click to rename it. Let's say gray or neutral. You can name that thing anything you want. Okay, let's say red, green, and yellow. Now our color palette is ready, but we cannot use this thing right now. We have to set up the theme first, like the light theme and dark theme, so that we can switch between themes very easily. For that, what you have to do is you have to simply click on this option and choose create collection. Okay, and I will name this collection like UI colors. Okay, now I will simply click on create variable and choose colors, and I will type here like primary /00. Okay, and I will hit enter. Then it will create a folder with the name of primary, and it will add the color inside that. So we have the primary color and we have the 00 value, and here we have the value. I will double click on the value to change the name, and I will type, let's say, light. Okay, and I will click on this plus button. Simply click on create new variable mode. Then it will ask you to move this thing to Figma themes. So you have to simply click on choose theme, and theme is actually premium plan. So if you don't have Figma premium, you will not be able to use this feature. And so you either need to buy a Figma premium plan, or you can apply for Figma education plan if you are a student and you cannot afford Figma premium. Okay, so you have to move this thing in your project, and I have already covered all these things in the second video, in the styles and library video. Okay, so I will simply move it here. Then I will be able to generate dual theme here. If I simply go here and I simply click it, and I will type dark. Okay, and let me expand it. So what I have to do is, right now I have to choose the primary color in the dark theme and in the light theme. Okay, so I will simply click here and go to libraries, and I will choose the blue color. Okay, like blue is our primary color, so I will choose the blue 50. Let's rename it 50 so that it's easy to understand, and make sure that these two names are different. You should not type blue here because that will create problem in a longer run. I will explain you that thing later. Like we will generate a code for this thing so that you can share the exact color palette with your developer and they will be able to use it. Okay, so I will go here and simply go to libraries and choose the darkest version. For now we are just simply flipping the color palette for that theme. Okay, now simply duplicate it, let's say 100, duplicate it again, and you have to do this thing multiple times. Let's say 200. Okay, now I will pick up the color palette. Simply click here and choose this blue 100, and it's very easy. You can do that thing on your own. It's not that much hard. Okay, I will pick it and make sure that you have selected the correct color. Like it should be in a sequence. You should not skip one color, otherwise that will mess up your color palette. Okay, I think I forgot. I have to add one more. Wait a minute. Let me undo it. Duplicate variable. I will type 950. Okay. Okay, now our color palette is ready. I will choose the light one. And yeah, one way to check like if you are picking the right color or not, you should just check the sum of the first number, like blue 50 and blue 950. So it's total 1000, like 50 and 950, it's total 1000. So if you just pick any two colors, if you are picking them in a reverse order, so the total sum should be 1000, like 300 and 700. So it's 1000. So you have picked the correct color palette. If the sum is equal to 1000. Okay, if I just go here and choose 600, wait a minute, it will be 800. Okay. Okay, now our color palette is ready for the blue color. We have to do the same thing for other colors. For that, what I will do is I will simply click here on the collection and simply right click and duplicate collection, and I will name it. Let's double click on it and type gray, or let's say neutral, because we have already used the name gray. We cannot use that thing again. It will mess up things for the developer. You should never use same name for two collections. Okay, I will type neutral here. Okay, so I will pick the neutral color. If I just go here and choose gray 50, gray 100. Oh, I typed the wrong name. I will type the, let's say, danger. For the red color, I will choose danger. I will go here and choose the red color. And you have to do this thing for all the color palettes you have. Okay, now you are ready to use the color palette for this thing. If I just draw a frame, let's say if I draw a frame, and I can go to this option and choose the colors from here. Okay, and for some reason, if you have both styles and variables, then what you have to do is, if I just go here and if I select it and if I go inside that, you can see that the variables are shown in the rectangle color palette, but the styles are shown in the circular color palette. So that's how you can distinguish between them if you have, for some reason, if you have both styles and variables. Okay, and if you are using variables, you should delete your local style, like simply right click and delete all the styles if you have converted your local styles to variable. Okay, and there is actually a plugin to convert all these things. Simply go here and choose styles to variable converter. Then it will convert all your styles to variables. Okay, and that way it will be very easy for you to switch from styles to variable. Okay, now what you have to do is, you can see that here we have the collection name. This is the colors, but we don't have to pick colors from the colors. We want to pick the colors from the UI colors. Okay, we have 3 collections here. Let's delete the first collection because it's empty. There is no use of that thing. So delete collection. Okay, so we have UI colors. We don't want to use the colors. We want to use the UI colors. So I will scroll down and you can see that here we have the collection name primary 0. Okay, and I can actually switch between the color mode. Let's say if I just go here and choose dark mode, then I will be able to switch between 2 modes. You can see that here we have the mode here, light and dark. Okay, so it's pretty basic thing. Okay, Now, obviously, I don't want to see this like colors collection, like the basic color palette we set it up here. Like we don't want to see this collection when we are picking color palette. So what I can do is I can go inside all variables, select the first one, scroll down, hold down shift, and then select the last one, and then simply right click and choose edit variables. And you see this option here, like color scoping. You have to deselect every single thing, like show in all supported properties, simply deselect it. Then it will hide that from all the elements, like it will not show that thing in the fill or in the frames or shapes or text or any other thing. This color palette collection will not be visible anywhere. Okay, so if I just go here and if I click here, you can see that the color collection is not visible. We only have the UI colors. Okay, so here we have the primary, here we have the neutral, here we have the danger. Okay, so this was the very basic color palette and some basic properties of variables we have. Okay, now let's look at some more properties of Figma variables. Like if I go inside another file, let's say if I pick this file and if I draw a frame, okay, and if let's say if I pick a color from here, okay, and if I choose the theme, let's say from the light, and if I drag any frame inside this thing, let's say if I resize it, let's say I have this UI design set it up and I have a use variables in this, like the theming variable where we can switch from light theme to dark theme. Now you can see that currently it's set to dark theme. You can see that here, like currently it's set it to dark theme. Okay, if I choose auto, let me first copy it. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Let me first copy it, and if I choose auto, so it will behave according to the parent container. Let's say if I move this thing inside, and if I change the color palette to dark, now if I select the screen, if I move it outside, then it will change it to light theme, and if I move this thing inside, it will adapt the color of the parent container, like it will adapt the theming of the parent container. And if I, let's say if I duplicate this thing, let's rename it to dark. Okay, and this one is okay, so I will choose the light theme here. Okay, now if I select this screen, let's choose another color so that it's clearly visible. Okay. Now if I move this thing here, then it will choose the dark theme or automatically. Okay, and if I move this thing here, then it will pick the light theme. It will pick the theme of the parent container it have. If we have set it up the color theming to auto, and it will not work if we have set it up the theming to, like, if currently it's set to auto, if I set it to light, then it will remain in light mode no matter where I move this thing. Okay, so for this feature to work, it should be set it to auto, otherwise it will not work. Okay, and this is true for all the elements we have. Let's say if I just break it, it's a component. Okay, let's move it here. Let's delete this element we have. Okay, and if I select this, you can see that the theming is set it to currently auto. And if I select this screen and choose the theme to dark, okay, now if I select this currently, you can see that it's in the light theme. If I simply duplicate it and move it inside, then it will automatically change the color theming. Okay, so make sure that you have set it up your color theming to auto of the child element, otherwise it will mess up things in a longer run. And this will not work, or the color switching feature, if you have break the variables. Like if I move it inside, like if I select the text and if I break the variable, okay, now this will not switch the themes. If I just move it inside, you can see that the paragraph is actually changing the color, but because we have set it up the color palette here. But if I select the heading, it's not changing the color because we have not used the themed variable here. Okay, now these are some basic properties of variable. Like these are the very basic properties you should know to move forward. Now as a beginner, we all use this type of color palette in our UI design, but there are some problems associated with using this type of color palette. First one is you don't know the correct usage. Like if you're designing a primary button, you don't know either you should use a blue 500 or 600 or 700. And if there are multiple designers working on the same design file, then it's even worse. They might pick different colors for the same component or for the same type of element. Let's say for heading, one designer might pick 950, other designer might pick 800, 700 or 900. So this is the first problem associated with using this type of color palette. Second one is you cannot control the theming precisely. Let's say if this is a UI design and here we have the footer, and in the light theme the footer color is dark, but when I switch to dark theme the footer color changes to white. We don't want that. We want the footer to remain dark in dark theme also, but currently we are using this type of color palette and we are just flipping the colors, so the footer color is also changing, including all other elements we have. Like here the paragraph text was black, here the paragraph text is white. Okay, so this is a very simple color palette, and these are the two main problems associated with using this type of color palette. Okay, Now to fix this problem, Salesforce introduced the concept of design tokens in 2024, and the name of design tokens was invented by Gina Anna. I hope I am pronouncing her name correctly. Okay. Now what happens in design token is, like, normally we use this type of color palette. Like here we have the hex code, we call that thing the raw color, and we assign a simple name to it. Let's say gray 50 or blue 50 or blue 500 or blue 900. Okay. So that it's easy to understand. But again, we don't know the usage of this color. Like where should I use gray 50? So in design tokens, what we do is we assign a use case to that thing. We are at a third level. Currently, we only have two levels. Like we have the raw value and we have the base color, like a simple name for that color. We will also add a third level in which we will define the usage of that color. Let's say this is gray 50 and this is used for screen background. So this is the third level and we call this thing semantic colors. Okay. Now in the semantic colors, we have named the color palette according to the usage, like what is the use case of that particular color palette, so that it's very easy to understand for any designer. Even if a new designer joins your team, then he or she will be able to understand things very easily. Here we have another example, like here we have a blue 600 and this is the accent default color. So whenever I need to pick the primary accent color, I can just pick this accent default color and it will be easy. And to even make things more clear, what we can do is we can add a fourth level, which is a component level. Let's say this is a primary button we have. Okay. Now I'm using the accent default as the background color of this primary button I have. So what I can do is I can add the fourth level, which is the component level. Now we have the fourth level, raw value, base value, semantic color. Then we have the component color. Here we have assigned a more specific role to a particular color. Like you can identify by just looking at the color name. Like this is a button. This is the type of button. Like this is a primary button and this is the background color and in the default state. Similarly, we can have button primary background hover state. Okay. Similarly, we can create for other button variants like button secondary background default, button tertiary background default. Okay. We can do the same thing for the content, like say button primary text default. Okay, like this will be the text color. Okay, now before moving forward, let's see how many elements we have in a UI design. Okay, we mainly have 5 type of elements in UI design. First one is the surface. Like surface is the background of anything. Let's say this is a screen background, we call that thing surface. Like here we have the eyebrow UI element, here we have the background color, we call that thing surface. Like here we have the illustration, like logo is the illustration. Okay, and then here we have again another illustration, like this arrow is the illustration. Okay, and here we have the icon, and then here we have the border, like this is the border of a button and this is actually the surface of a button. Okay, this is a border and this is a surface, and then we have the text. So these are the 5 main elements we have: surface, border, text, icon and illustration. Okay, now to simplify things, what we can do is we can club these things like text, illustration and icon, because they kind of serve the same purpose. Like this is the text and this is the icon and this is the illustration, they kind of same the same purpose. So what we can do is we can club all these 3 and we can call that thing content, and the content contain text, illustration and icon. So we will name our color palette according to this thing. Now let me show you an example. Like this is the name, like this is the name of a component level token, like button primary background default. I can change that thing with anything. Like this is a component name, I can name it like toggle button or an input field. So the name will be input field primary background default. I can have an input field secondary background default. Okay, and in the place of background I can place content, which contains my text, illustration and icon. So any button which contains, like let's say this was button, so this is the text, this is the icon. So these two will be using color from the content. Okay, similarly we have the states, like this is the default state, we can have the hover state, active state, default state, sorry, disabled state or the focused state. So if you use the design tokens, that will make your design consistent and very easy to understand. And the thing is, you don't have any choice, you need to use design tokens if you want to build a large scale product. But if you are building a very small product, like if you are doing a personal project or you and your friend is going in a hackathon, then you can use a simple color palette. That's not a big deal, you don't need to invest time in setting up your design tokens. You can just tell your developer friend and other designers manually, that's not a big deal. But if you want to build a very large scale product, then you need to use design tokens that will help both designers and developers. Like developers will be able to understand things properly, and assigning colors for them will be very easy. Like let's say they are building a button, then they can just copy this name and change the state manually. They don't need to go back to Figma and check what was the color for the primary state, for the secondary button, for the tertiary button. They can just simply change the name and the color palette will be updated, and that way the developed product will look very similar to what we have in design. Okay, now let's set up our design tokens inside Figma variables. Okay, and to set up our design tokens, we will create 3 different categories. Like first one is the surface, second one is the border or stroke, and third one is the content. Okay, so I will go inside my Figma variables, and like this is the color palette we created. Like these are the base colors we have. Let me rename it so that it's easier to understand. and you should always add a underscore before the base color palette, base colors. Okay, so this is the level 1, like this is the hex code, this is the level 1, this is the level 2 where we assigned a name to that, like blue 50, blue 100. Okay, and this UI colors is the level 3, like I think I showed you earlier. Like here we have the level 1, this is the hex code, this is the level 2 where we assign a name to that thing, and this is the level 3 where we assign a name according to the usage of that thing. Okay, and here we have the level 4. You don't need to create component level design tokens for every single component. You can do that thing just for the specific components you require. Like here we have the footer, you can create a component for the footer only if you want. Okay, so if I just go inside Figma variables, so currently I'm inside UI color, let's rename it to semantic colors, SEMATIC. Okay, so first of all we will create the surface. So first of all we will create the surface, then we will create the border, then we will create the content. Okay, so for the surface I will simply go to all variables and choose color and type surface. Okay, and then I will type screen background, screen BSC. Okay, screen background. So I'm inside the surface, let's move it up, and if I show you UI design, like this is the screen background, they are using a gray color screen background, and here we have a card above that thing. So we will first create the screen background, then we will create the card, then we will create the different states of card. Like you can see here, like this is the default state of a card, like in default state it's white, but in hover state it turns to gray. And when I will press it, that thing, like if you just look at this cross button, by default it's gray, and when I hover over the element it turns to gray. Okay, and then when I press it, nothing happens. So the pressed state is optional. You can use the same color or a different color, that's totally up to you how you are theming your UI design. And I'm not going to teach you the theory part. This is not a theory video, this is a design tool video. I'm just telling you the feature of Figma. I'm not going to the depth of how you should create all different state. I'm just telling you the basics. Okay, so if you just look at the UI design, like here we have the surface, like this button background is also a surface, this never button is also a surface, this is also a surface, like this is a content icon we have, and then we have the arrow icon here. So all these three are content. Again we have the illustration here, this is also a content. Okay, and here we have a separator, this is a stroke. So these are the three different categories we are going to create. So let's start with surface. Okay, for this video I will follow this UI design color palette. You have to pick colors according to your requirements. I'm just doing this thing randomly. I'm teaching you the tool part, not the theory part. Okay, so for the screen background I will pick a gray color. Okay, let's say if I go inside this and choose a gray 50, and in the dark theme obviously the color will be flipped, so I will choose the darkest color. Okay, so now I will create another color palette, or I can simply duplicate it, that way it will be easy to pick the color. I will name it card. Okay, and I will choose a white color. Okay, like here they are using a white color. Okay, but if I go inside my color palette, I don't have a white color right now. So what I need to do is I will go to the base colors, and I will simply go inside gray, and I will add a white color. Like simply duplicate it, type 00, and make sure that you are changing the duplicated ones, not the original ones. Otherwise it will be changed here. Like if I change the gray 50, let's say if I change it to something like this. Okay, and if I go inside the semantic colors, you can see that the gray 50 has been updated. It's like a component, like this is the main component and this is the child component here we are using. Okay, so let me undo it. Okay, so here we have, and here I will choose the pure white color. For that I will simply click and type F and hit enter. Okay, now I will go to the semantic colors and I will choose the card color as the gray 0. Okay, and in the dark theme I will choose a little lighter version, and I'm not going to tell you how dark theme work. I have already created a detailed video for beginners how dark theme works, so go watch that, link is in the description. Okay, here I'm telling you only the theory part. Okay, so I will simply duplicate it, and I will create a hover state for this thing. Like when I will hover over this card, obviously this card is clickable, you can see that. So when I will hover over this thing, the card color should change. So I will simply double click here, type card dash hover. Okay, so I will choose a gray 50 again. Okay, you can use any other color if you want. You can also use like blue if you want. Okay, like if I choose blue here, like in the hover state the color will change to blue. I will duplicate it again. I will get the pressed state, and in the development we call the pressed state the active state. So you can also type like card dash active, that's up to you, but make sure that you communicate this thing with your developer. Okay, so for the active state you can change the color if you want, or you can use the same color. That really doesn't matter in the active state. We can use the same color for active and hover state like they are using here. Like if I hover over the button the color changes, but if I press nothing happens. So they are using the same color for both hover and active state. So it's totally up to you. If you want to change it you can change it. I'm changing it. Okay, so I will create a card of level 2. like this is a card, and here I have a chip above that card. So this was the level 1, like screen background level 1, or elevation will be the right word. Like the elevation of the screen background is 0, then the elevation of this card is 1, then the elevation of the chip button is a 2. Okay, so we will create a card of level 2. Card dash, wait a minute, let me duplicate it. Let's duplicate the card and move it to the bottom. Card, and make sure that you always add a dash whenever you are naming something, and the naming should be very simple. Okay, although there are many rules behind naming the thing, but I'm not covering the theory part here, I'm just covering the tool part. Okay, so if I just type card dash 2 dash, let's remove the dash. Okay, so I will choose a gray 50, and you can see that here we are using the same color. Like for the screen background we use gray 50, and for the card of level 2 we are using the gray 50 again. So this is how we work. Like here we have the chip and here we have the screen background, so you can use the same color if you want, and you can also go for gray 100 if you want, but I'm using gray 50 for this. But in the dark theme I will choose the little lighter version. Like here we used gray 900, but in the dark theme we will use gray 800. Okay, so I will simply again duplicate it, gray dark card 2 dash hover, and I will change it to, let's say, blue again. Let's say blue. Okay, and you can see that we are using the same color here. Like for the hover state of simple card and the elevated card, we are using the same color. You can use the different color if you want. Okay, like if I go here and choose the dark color, let me duplicate it, press state. Okay, card dash 2 dash pressed. Okay, here we, and then I will create a element for the fixed element, like the nav bar. Like it should be fixed, so obviously it's using the white color, but in dark theme it will use a little lighter version. Okay, so I will create a like new color. I will name it fixed element. Okay, so I will use a white color here again. I will pick the white color. Wait a minute, where is the white color? Here we have the white color. And in the dark theme I will use a little lighter version. Like here we used gray 800, like for the card 2. For now, for the fixed element I will use either gray 700 or gray 600. Okay, like I'm picking the gray 600. You can use any other color you want. That's up to you how you're theming your UI. These things are not fixed. So we have kind of set it up our neutral surfaces. Like these are the neutral surfaces, all the white and gray surfaces you have. Now we have to set up our colored background. So for that I will do is I will simply click on create variable. Okay, then I will name it like ascent or primary. Like this is the primary color, so we will name it primary dash light dash default. Okay, so and make sure that your casing is correct. Like you should using the same casing. Like here I am using the capital letter, then I have the lowercase letter, so I will use the same thing here, like primary light. Okay, so I will use the background here, like for the primary light. Now I will duplicate it, hover, I will make it darker. Here we will make it lighter. Okay, I will press. Okay, now to organize things better, what we can do is we can add them to folders. So what I will do is I will select the first one and I will select the last one. Like these are the neutral color palettes we have for the surface. I will right click and new group with selection. I will surface neutral, neutral. Okay. Okay, so I will go again inside the surfaces and I will choose the primary light. I will select the first one, last one, right click, new group with selection. I will name it primary. Okay, and now I can actually remove the primary word from this thing because it's already inside a container. And if you just go inside here, you will be able to see the name. So this is the name, surface primary light default. So it's actually repeating 2 times. So like first of all we have the surface, like the parent container we have, then we have the primary, like the child container we have, or the child folder we have, then we have the whole token name or the color name. Okay, so I will remove primary from here. Let's remove it. Now I will simply select all of them, duplicate them, and I will type normal. Like this is the normal color we have, normal normal. Okay, so I will choose the normal color. Now for the normal color, you have to decide which color you want to pick. I'm just picking this thing randomly. So I will use the normal color like blue 600. Okay, and obviously for the hover state it will be a little darker, and for the active state it will be a little more darker. And for the dark theme I will use the like 400. Then I will choose 300, 300 here, and I will choose 200. Okay, then I will duplicate this thing again. Like this is the dark version, like light, normal, dark. So dark. So for the darker version I will again use the blue 800, the color we used for pressed state. Okay, so I will go here and choose dark 800, 900, 950. Okay, so this is one of the benefit of using design tokens. You can use the same color twice and make it act differently. So I will use blue 800. Okay, and I have 900, and I will do the same thing here. I will use the lightest color, then the 100, and then 300. And you have to do the same thing for the primary and the new danger color, like this, the danger or the red color. Okay, and once you have set it up your surfaces, what you have to do is you have to go inside surface, select the first one, scroll down a bit, select the last one, and right click. And you have to change the scoping, because we will not use this color for the texts and for the stroke also. Okay, so we will remove that thing, otherwise it will clutter our design. Like if I show you, let's delete all other things we have first. Delete this group. Okay, like if I type the text here, like if I select the text, if I go inside this, you can see that we cannot see any color palette because we changed the scoping. But if I select any surface or any card or frame, then I will be able to see the backgrounds we have. Okay, so like if I want to create a button, so what I can do is I can simply scroll down and I can choose this normal default, like primary normal default state. Okay, so and if I type inside text, let's say label. Okay, and let's add a auto layout to it, add 12. So here we have a very basic button ready. Let's rename it button slash primary slash default. Okay, I will duplicate it. I will change the name to like default from hover. Okay, and I can change the color. You see, this is very easy. Like I don't have to use my brain, like which color should I pick for hover state. I have already set it up that thing earlier. Okay, so if I just go hover, I can do the same thing here. I will change it to active, like ACTIV, active or pressed state. Like the meaning of both these things is same, so don't get confused. I will use the pressed state. So I have set it up my color palette, and I can create a component with the help of this thing, create component set. And I have already covered how to create components and all the stuff. So from here you can set up like this is the primary color and this is the hover. Currently we don't have the button type category, so what we can do is I can select it, duplicate it, copy it, and I will change the property one. Like this is the secondary button. Okay, so for the secondary button I will select the first one and I will change the color from like light to like light default, light hover, light pressed. Okay, and I will also change the text color. Currently we have not set it up the content color, but so I'm choosing a simple dark color, or let's say pick a blue color randomly. Okay, so I can change it here. Like this is the primary button we have, I can have the secondary button. So it will be very easy for you in a longer run to build big scale project. And if there are multiple designers working on the same file, then it will be very easy for you to manage. Okay, so now to create the other two categories, like the border and the content, you don't have to create all these things from scratch. You can select this collection, right click and just duplicate group. Okay, then it will duplicate that group. So we will go here and simply double click and type, let's say content. Like in the neutral, we will change few things. So let's first change the scoping. Like select the first one, scroll down a bit, select the last one, right click, edit variable, and we will select the text also, and we will leave the stroke as it is because we are not going to use this thing inside a stroke. Okay, so I will scroll down a bit. I will change few name, like we will not use screen background, so we will delete it. We can also delete, like instead of card we will use like primary, or like say white. Okay, and we will also have the black color, so black, and I will use the darkest color for the gray. Let's say here we have, and in the dark theme it will be the lightest color. And I'm doing this thing very fast because these are very basic things you can do on your own. This is not a rocket science. Okay, so this is the primary color. Then we can have a secondary color here, like the little toned down color. Here we have like this is the primary text we have, this is the secondary text. So we can use the black color for the primary text or the heading, and for the secondary text we can use that thing. Okay, let me delete it, duplicate, and let's type secondary text, secondary, secondary. So this is the secondary content. Like this icon was also a secondary content. This icon is also a secondary content. This is the primary. Okay, so what I will do is I will choose a little lighter version and make sure that you are checking color contrast and all that stuff properly. I will use the same thing here. I will, in the light theme, I will use a little darker. And just to make things easier, you should go to the edit variable option and type the description like this. This can be used for secondary. So the description will also help in searching that thing. Like if I just go inside here, like if I copy our text and if I just search here, let's say this is a body text and I want a color for the body. What I can do is I type body. Now wait a minute, it's not working. Like if I go here, I have not included the body word in the description, so I need to include that thing like body. Okay, body text paragraph. Like okay, so if I select it and go inside it and search for body, BODY. Okay, so it will show me the secondary color for body. Okay, so this will be very easy, and you can add more color palette like tertiary color or for the disabled content. Okay, you can leave the primary color palette as it is you want. And this is not how we actually set up design tokens in a larger scale. The actual design tokens file is very complicated. If I showed you that thing, you will just smash your head against the wall. So I have just shown you a very basic color tokens file. You have to do the same thing for stroke also, like duplicate it, border, or you can name it stroke also. Okay, so in the border also we can have a white border, we can have a black border, we can have a secondary border. Like the border color will be a little lighter. We don't use that hard border. Let's say this color, and for the dark theme it will be, yeah, it should work fine. Okay, and we can have a lighter border and darker border. Okay, and you have to basically change the scoping, right thing, stroke, let's select it. And you might think that this is unnecessary, I'm just repeating the same color palette again and again. But if you're working on a very large scale project, then this will be very helpful. Yeah, but if you're building a very small project, like you and your friend are going into a hackathon, or you are doing a personal project for your case study or your portfolio, then you don't need to set up this type of color tokens. You can build a simple color palette and that will also work fine. Okay, now let me show you how can you create the component level tokens. For that, I will create another collection. Like we have the base color, we have the semantic colors. I will create another collection. Simply go ahead and create collection. I will name it component color tokens. Okay, and you can name it anything you want, but it should be easy to understand and it should communicate the meaning. Okay, so now what I will do is I will create variable, choose it. I will create a design token for button. So I will type button slash primary slash background, or I can just simply type bg slash default. Okay, so this is the component name, this is the type of the component. You can have secondary component, tertiary component. This is the name of the element. Like we can have a content here, we can have border here. Okay, and this is a state. So I will simply hit enter. And when you are building a design tokens for components, we don't use themes. Like we will not create two themes, because we will refer the color from here. Okay, like from the semantic color. So whenever you will change the theme of semantic colors, the component color will automatically change. So what we will do is, like for the default button, for the primary button, I will go here and choose the color not from the base color. Make sure that you are not picking the color from base color, because we have not added theme in the base color. Okay, we will pick colors from semantic color. So I will choose the surface primary. This is the default. If you just hover over it, you will be able to see the name. Okay, so this is the default state. I will duplicate it. Actually, the folder structuring is wrong. It should be like button primary default, and this way it will be easy. And this should be background, and this should be content. Okay, let's duplicate it again, and this should be stroke or border. Okay, so for the background this is, and for the content it will be white. So I have to scroll down and pick the color from content neutral. I will pick the white color, and for the border I will choose the border. And yeah, in case if you don't have border, like in this case we don't have a border, so in that case what you have to do is you have to use the same color as the background color, because this thing will help you in the secondary button. Like in the secondary button we can add a stroke. Let's say if I add a stroke here, and if I pick the same color as this, so it will be very easy, not for you but for the developer, like he can just copy paste the code for the primary button and create a secondary button by just changing the color name. This is the default state. Like if I duplicate it again, like this is the hover state. Okay, and this is the active. Okay, and this is the disable state. So once you have scattered up all the states, and I'm not setting up the colors, you can do that thing on your own. I will simply duplicate this thing. So we have the primary button and we have the secondary button. Okay. So when developer will code this thing, so he will type the name, like if I just go inside the primary button, so he will type this name, button primary default background. Okay. But when he will come inside the secondary button, what he can do is he can simply change the primary word with the secondary word and it will work fine. But if you remove the stroke from the primary button, he will be required to add that thing manually, like he need to write the code again. So I will recommend you to always add a border, and if you don't want to add the border, you can use the same color as the background color so that the border will not be visible. Okay. So I will change the color in the secondary. I will choose a little lighter color, like this is the lighter color. The content color will be obviously the normal or the darker. Let me choose the darker color. Yeah, this is the dark default. You can also use the normal default color, but there might be some contrast issue. So in that case, you have to change the color. Okay. And for the border color, you can keep the border if you want. You can remove the border if you want, but I will keep the border in this thing. Okay. So now if I select it, let's choose it. Let's search button secondary. Okay, this is a button secondary border. Okay. So I have assigned the border here. And if I select it, button secondary, so this is the button secondary content. Okay, like this, and I will choose the background here, button secondary background. Okay, and now for some reason, if you want to change the color of this button, you don't have to select the component and change the color. I can simply come here, like this is a secondary color. I can change the background color. Let's say if I choose this color, then the color will be updated automatically and it will not affect any other component. Okay, so this is the benefit of using component level tokens. Okay, and if you are an individual, it's not required that you use component level tokens. These are for big teams or when you are building a very large scale project. But as an individual, you can just keep the design tokens to level 3. Like if I show you here, you can just keep the design tokens to level 3. You don't need to build the level 4. But if time allows, I will recommend you to create a component level token. That way it will help you a lot. Okay, so now you know the basics of design token. Like this is the very basic thing. This is not how the actual design tokens look like. I have tried to simplify this thing. The actual design tokens are very big. Like this is not even the 10% of how we actually build design tokens and manage them. And now you also know how to use Figma variables for colors. Now let me show you the other options we have. Okay, like the other options we have is, let me create a new collection so that it's not messy. Create new collections and we will name it numbers. Okay, the other options we have is for the numbers. Like if I say number, I can simply type here, let's say I'm using a 4-pixel grid system. So what I can do is I can simply type S1 or S0, then give it a value of 0 pixel. I will duplicate it. Wait a minute, let me undo it. I will type S2 or S1 and then I can type 4 here. Okay, like this is the grid system I'm using. So this is the spacing or the sizing one, like sizing 0, sizing 1, sizing 3, oh sorry 2. Then I will type 8 here and then duplicate it. 3 here and change it to 12. And there is actually a plugin to do this thing very fast. If I just go inside the resources panel and I'll search for the plugin called bulk variable generator. Okay, and here what you have to do is you have to create a new or existing. You can simply select the existing and choose the collection. Like here we have the numbers, or you can create a new collection if you want. Okay, so this is how it will name it. I will name it S. I want to keep the name short and precise. Okay, this is how it will name. Here we have option called use custom number in the naming. If you turn it on, it will give you some advanced options. You can use it if you want. And here we have the add leading 0 size. I will simply uncheck this thing because it's adding unnecessary 0. I don't want that. If you want that, you can add it also. So this is the starting value and this is the stepper. If you are using a 8-pixel grid, you can type 8 here, but we are using a 4-pixel grid system, so we will write 4 here. Okay, so now this is the value and this is the life size. Okay, so this is the S1, S4, S8, S12, S16. So it will generate a grid system for you till 128 pixels. Okay, so if you just click on generate, then it will generate the number variables we have. So if we go inside numbers, here you can see that here we have the variables. Now this is very similar to how color variables generate. Like if you just go inside the settings option, you can change the scoping. Like if you want this number to only visible on the corner radius or the width and height or the gap in the auto layout. Okay, like if I show you, like this is a button and like here we have an option here. Like if you just hover over that, it will show you all the size and spacing we have. So you can pick the border radius from this. Like if I pick 8, so initially it was using 6 pixels, but 6 pixels is not in our grid size. So what we will do is I will select all of them and choose it like the 8 pixel grid system. Okay, and you can also create a component level tokens for this thing. Like if I go inside component color tokens, so instead of naming it component color tokens, I will simply rename it component let's say component tokens. Okay, so if I will go inside buttons and go inside the default state, and I will choose like border radius, number, border radius. Okay, so I will choose the value from here. Like here we have the border radius of S3, S8. Okay, and you can add this border radius in all the different state, or you can also keep this thing inside the button folder only. Like if I just move it inside the button, so we can have a single border radius for all type of buttons we have. Like if I go inside scoping here, like this is the border radius, so I will choose only the corner radius. So I will simply select it and choose corner radius only. Okay, so let's say border radius. Okay, so I will select it, and yeah, you might have different size of buttons. So in that case, what you can do is border radius small. Like this is the border radius of small button. Like if I duplicate it, this is the border radius of medium button. You can have different border radius for different type of button. Like if you want to use a bigger border radius, you can use that. Okay, like the large and large, and I will use the same border radius for the large and the medium size button. Okay, so I will select all of them. Like these all are small buttons. I will go here and search for button radius small. Okay, and when I will create a big size button, let's duplicate it very fast. Let's duplicate them. Like this is the big button we have. Let's increase the size, and I'm doing things randomly. Okay, let's rename it. Okay, so I will select all of them and I will choose it from here, like border radius medium. Okay, so this is our medium button, and I have set it up the medium button here. And if I change border radius from here, like if I choose 20, then it will update that thing everywhere. Okay, so this will help you in a longer run. And we also have two other options like string and boolean. I'm not covering these two options because these two are not that much useful as the color and the numbers we have. Okay, like majority of the time you will use only the numbers and the colors. Okay, you can explore this thing on your own. It's that not that much hard. Okay, so now you know everything about Figma variables, like the tool part, and I have not covered much about the theory part because design tokens is a very big topic in itself. I will create a separate video to explain the design tokens in detail. Okay, and this was for this video, and in the next video I will show you how you can build your design system inside Figma, like how you should set up a design file and how you should build a component properly. Okay, and see you in next one. Till then, bye.